Welcome to Into the Words, a podcast from the Highlights Foundation Retreat Center. Today in the cabin, we're actually in the lodge because it's December and it's too cold in the cabin. I have our guests, our dear friend Jess Rinker and Deb Gonzalez. Welcome, Deb.
Hello.
And welcome, Jess.
Hello.
So great to have you here in December. We just had a big snowstorm yesterday. But Jess, you made it. Deb, you were delayed for a day.
I was delayed, but I'm happy to be here now.
You're both here for, we're doing some filming for one of our first online classes called The Debut Author's First Year. And Jess, talk a little bit about this.
Well, it's the brainchild of Allison and mine. We were talking about the need for debut authors to have a little bit more resources than are actually available. I mean, you can Google a lot of things, I suppose, but the huge, vast knowledge that you need to have when you're a debut author is pretty overwhelming. So we thought that this class would be great for anyone who has just made a sale. Maybe they're a year out from selling their book, or even 2 years out, honestly. I mean, wouldn't you say the more time you have, the better, to do a little planning and prepare for the launch of their first book.
Yeah. And I think the content, too, is good for anybody. Even if you've already launched your books, I think that the content will be helpful for anyone.
I think so too. I think, and also, like, when I think about myself, I feel like each book I have coming out is a completely different category. So it's going to be different. You know, if it's a picture book, you're trying to reach teachers. And if it's a middle grade novel, well, I guess you're still trying to reach teachers, but the readership is different. The audience is a little different. So there's other things to consider.
Different strategies for marketing.
Right, strategies.
Yes, I'm all about it.
And you've designed the course through a series of modules that talk about all sorts of different pieces, right? There's some marketing, some school visits, some promoting
Yeah, we
yourself.
start with a timeline so that it's sort of an overview for people to start planning their year, ideally their year. We get into marketing and promotion a little bit, school visits a little bit, branding, author branding, the community of the Kidlit community and how important that is both online and in life. What else do we talk about? I think that's most of the overview. Oh, valuing your time and your work too. I think that's one of the things that authors struggle with a lot. I really want to do this school visit and they're not offering me any money and I have to drive 50 miles, but they really want me, but we can't do that all the time. We have to value our time. And so I think that's a big part of this as well, is learning to value your work and your time.
And each of these modules, you're interviewing and having a conversation with somebody who's recently gone through their debut year and talking about their perspective.
Right, because I'm a debut myself. I don't know all of these answers. I have a pretty good network of people that I go to when I need to know something, but we've brought in all of these, I think there's 10 of us total, including me. I think there's 10. All these authors in various stages of careers, different book projects that they've sold, different expertise that they bring to the table, so that hopefully we're touching on all of the different questions and things that people might want.
Sharing those multiple perspectives. And Deb Gonzalez, you've come and you just shared with us, we just did some filming, but you were talking about some of your stuff that you've done in your debut year.
Yeah.
Give some our listeners just a couple of the things that you've just talked about or that you're thinking of.
Oh, well, this debut experience has been extraordinary for me. It's been extraordinary in that I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a whole lot about marketing. I've learned about strengths that I've had and challenges that I've had as well. I seriously began understanding the marketing concept about a year and a half before my book was out. My book was supposed to be launched in 2018, so I started working on marketing then, and then it was pushed back to 2019, which was really a blessing because I wasn't quite ready yet. So I studied a lot of amazing marketers, some of the best in the business, Tim Grahl, Derek Sivers, Michael Hyatt, Jeff Walker, people that in the Kidlit industry we don't really focus on because I wanted to do my debut very, very differently. And I learned a whole lot about relationship marketing, understanding the difference between marketing and publicity. These concepts that as kid-lit authors we don't really talk about that much. But now I feel like I have not only a lot of information for myself to benefit my marketing strategy, but also to help others.
And we were talking at lunch, your natural instinct is to want to be here in a cabin writing.
Yes, I am totally happy all by myself all day long isolated in that cabin.
Our pajamas and our dogs, right?
Absolutely. And so to think about having to stand in front of 200 people and have everybody looking at me and listening to what I have to say, I've had to learn how to step into that role. And it's something that you have to learn. But for some of us, that we may never be in that place. However, there are ways that you can market yourself and market your work to align with who you are as an individual and your book.
So tell me just maybe one or two of the things that you've done for marketing in your debut year that either worked for you or that now that you've done it, you like it.
Oh, that's hard to nail down just two. I've had so much fun with it. Number one, and most of us don't like to do this, but number one, everybody needs to have an e-newsletter. You really have to have an e-newsletter. Think about it as creating your own community around your interest, and think about it as just creating friends. Your e-newsletter doesn't have to have 10,000 people in it. It can have 50. But basically, you're letting people know what you're doing and what you're all about. So an e-newsletter is one thing that I really have enjoyed. In fact, I think you're even on my list. And the other is I have really wrapped my head around the power of Pinterest as a marketing platform.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's perfect for the introverted marketer.
All right, I'm there.
Yeah, it's perfect for the introverts. And so those are just two things that I've learned.
Great. Sounds good. So Jess, tell me, what is your debut book and a little bit about some of what you've been doing with it?
Well, I'm not nearly as ambitious as Deb. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to have to step up my game. But my debut book is Gloria Takes a Stand, and it's a picture book biography about Gloria Steinem. Came out this past March. And I started off with a bang. I was very excited. I did a lot of event planning and things. My publisher did send me places, so I didn't have to do all of the planning, which I was very grateful for. The launch was the biggest thing, I guess, that I did, and it was a lot of fun. I planned it around Gloria's work, so it was a panel of women activists in their communities, and I just tied all that in together, and it was a great celebration. And I've done some events, I've done some festivals, conferences, school visits, a little bit of everything, I guess, at this point. And I'm not sure I have the same positive attitude as Deb.
I'm rubbing off on you. I'm rubbing off.
Thinking about the newsletter and the Pinterest, I can totally handle. I prefer to not be in the spotlight in this particular way, so it's challenging for me.
And I'm hoping that through the course that you're facilitating, that we'll get different perspectives and different tips on what works and what doesn't work, and also the spectrum of opportunities and options. Because not everything's going to work for everybody.
Right, and I think that Deb spoke to that really well when we were interviewing, is the idea of every author really getting a firm grip on who they are as a person and what they're able and willing to do, and because it doesn't have to be look the same way for every author.
No, like there's a concept in a marketing concept called spray and pray, where people just start shooting things out on social media thinking, well, I need to be doing this, so I'm just going to put graphics out here and that sort of thing. Well, actually pulling back, looking at each platform and looking at who actually is on that platform, then you can actually strategize and make better use of your planning. One thing we talked about in the taping that we just did was I did divide my year into 4 sections, and I decided one part of the year I was going to be working on this aspect, another part of the year I was going to be working on this aspect. So I had a real plan, and then if things didn't get I'm not real big on numbers either. People think about numbers like how many followers you have on Twitter or how many likes you have on Facebook. I'm more looking at the connections that you make. So say on Twitter, there may be a person that I'd like to get to know. So I will seek that person out.
Right.
I will make comments on their tweets and that sort of thing, and develop relationships in that way. Now, my numbers aren't fantastic, but my connections are quite good.
Your numbers are pretty good, too.
They're not bad. They're not bad.
They're not too shabby.
No, they're not too bad for an old gal, I know. And that's the other thing, too, that we talked about, too, is there's an age factor in this, too, as well. Many of us, most of us, have been working on our books, honestly, 12, 10 years. And most of us are 40, 50 years old before our books actually come out. And for many of people, 40, 50, 60, there's a huge gap in the marketing strategy. There's a huge gap in mindset, too. I do coach people with their marketing strategy. And a lot of the older people, my age, I guess I'm older, they lack confidence they feel old, they feel dumb. I've had people actually cry because they just don't know how to do it. But yet this is their dream that has come to pass, and they want to care for that dream. Yeah. So this is scary waters we're in, I think.
But the piece about the Kidlit community that I see here at the Highlights Foundation, with people of all ages, all types, all genres coming in through our doors, everyone has this passion, and it's their own passion, and that's the piece in the Kidlit world that's awesome. Like, the reason you're writing stories for children or young adults is because there's something in your heart that really wants to tell that story.
Right.
And so how do we break down those barriers to be welcoming to anybody, no matter what age or what your background is, and come in and figure out how to tell your story the way you can tell that story.
Tell the story and then take that story to the market that it's intended to be. And that's where the rub is a little bit, because we love each other, we care for each other, we care for our stories. Yet my story belongs in the Women's Sports Foundation. It belongs out there.
Right.
And so I have to find a way to get it out there. And there are ways to do it.
I feel like it always comes down to relationships.
Completely.
I mean, that's really the whole thing. I love the small intimate relationships that places like Highlights or where I got my MFA or where I teach now, those smaller writing communities and the things that come out of that, because you've developed genuine relationships, that practice will go right into your debut book or any book that you ever have, and trying to figure out where it's going to go and what audience it's going to reach is having genuine connections and relationships with people. And all of the marketing in the world, I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't do anything, because it clearly does do good things, but I think it's because you don't necessarily have that genuine connection in the same way is what is a turnoff for me, or makes it challenging for me. Because I much rather do this. I'd much rather have meet someone new and have a conversation. And that's, that you're reaching one person
Right,
rather than 50,000. But
yeah, but on the flip side, too, is understanding the difference between marketing and publicity. And marketing is the things you buy, or your website, or that sort of thing, paying for conferences. Publicity is word of mouth. So what I'm really trying to do is create people genuinely interested in your book, and that's where then it'll sell. So like podcasting is a fantastic way to develop publicity, because people hear the podcast, they share the podcast, possibly they buy the books or they follow us or whatever. So, and then the other thing is to be truly authentic and relentlessly helpful, and it'll come to pass. That's the kind of marketing I can do.
it's good marketing.
Yeah, feels good.
And so let's switch gears a little bit. Before the marketing comes the writing. So talk to me, Jess.
And after the marketing.
Talk to me about your writing.
My writing? Well,
What do you write?
I write everything.
Okay.
Always have. I did not start writing for kids, but that kind of just came along. I thought, I'm going to try to write a book, and the idea that I have is for kids, so that just kind of happened. But currently, I guess I started out, when I started getting serious about writing, got my MFA, was very focused in one particular category, wanted to do young adult, and learned very quickly after I graduated that it's not necessarily, you're not going to necessarily write a book and sell it. There's plenty of people who do write one book and sell one book, but there's a lot more of us who write many books and then maybe sell one book. And I was in that category. I had written novels and novels and novels and just did not get it, just did not make it happen. So I quickly learned that I need to try everything. Like I had to open my mind, open the creative aspect of who I was, open the, I just had pigeonholed myself, I guess, into one thing. And I started trying on all of these other things like picture books and chapter books and middle grade and whatever. And lo and behold, that's where all the sales came in. So I think I write everything, and I work on everything. I write for myself. I write for the contracts that I have, and I play around with stuff that, my agent hasn't seen yet.
And
so.
how do you write? Do you have a daily or a weekly practice? Are you a regular writer?
Right now, not so much, but that's mostly because I've been in the middle of edits and moving for several months. So it's hard. I don't really have a routine right now. I am a very fast, disciplined writer, but there was a time in my life where I said, I have to get up and I have to get my butt in the chair every single day, every single morning. I'd get up at 4 o'clock before my kids had to go to school. I would write. I'd send them off. I'd get back to writing. I don't do that anymore. I don't need to do that anymore, I guess. I know I can finish a book, and I don't have to be that regimented. I think I needed to be like that in the beginning. So now, no, I don't really have that much of a routine. I like to be home. I like to sit on my couch. I like to be in my pajamas. I like to have my coffee.
Yeah, all by yourself.
And that's it. I'm
But
good.
you did the practice, the learning, the work of the disciplined writing
I
to
did.
get you to a point
I
where
did.
you feel more comfortable.
I was always writing, but I think my MFA is what created that discipline even more so, was the idea of like, in order to finish a project, you really have to hit it constantly. And once I got that down, and once I'd finished a few projects, I've become much more loose, because I know, all right, I've got a deadline, it's due December 1st, I've got this many weeks, I know how long it's going to take me to do this work now. So it's a little bit more loose.
And Deb, what does your writing practice look like?
My writing practice is kind of interesting in that I've created a business too, where I create teacher guides for people and their new releases, and I've been doing that for probably about 8 years now. The thing about this business is you really can't quit your day job. You've got to go ahead and have something on the side there too. So I've been doing that and enjoying that. But as far as my writing practice, when it is rolling well, I really like to put in about 2 hours in the morning, and I like that to be kind of creative, open, working on maybe one scene or one character or something like that. And then I'm better editing later in the afternoon. So that gives me the midday to do my teacher guides or whatever I'm working on at the time there too. But yeah, just kind of get it in there. But I do like to have block time that I think, 10 o'clock, shut down that part of your brain, do the next part of your brain.
And you've talked about the teacher guides. Talk to me a little bit about your whole writing business life.
Yeah, they're kind of my claim to fame. They're called Guides by Deb. And it's interesting, we talked about this in the session a while ago. I once lived in Austin, Texas, which was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I really loved it there. And I was in a critique group with an amazing writer. Now she works at BCFA. She's a professor, works at BCFA. Anyway, her book was up for an award. A librarian told her it was up for an award, but the librarian said she needed to have a reader's guide. And she said, I don't even know what that is. And I said, I think I can do that for you. So I did. And for 8 years now, I have never, ever not been busy with teacher guides. Wow. So what I do is I take somebody's book and read the book, and then I can break it down into bite-sized pieces so that a teacher can actually teach that guide. I do in-depth discussion. I do activities that are applicable to whatever's going on in the classroom. I do a lot of projects, cut and paste, that kind of thing, all kinds of stuff. I'm a 35-year teacher. I was a Montessori teacher for a long, long time. Then I worked in upper elementary. And then I helped put together a charter school. So I'm really, really connected to the academic elements. And so for me, I can look at a book and break it up in a
Figure out how to make it work.
yeah, and then people, and what's really nice is that, and I have different kinds. I have one that's a short one, a middle grade, middle one, and then a really long educator guide if you want to. But they are very, very helpful for authors and illustrators to get librarians to take note of their work, or for educators to take note of their work, because if their work is crafted well enough to have something like this document their work, then it's sound.
And
I'm going to hire you.
you're hired.
You sold me.
And Deb, you're also, you do coaching, and
I
you've
do.
done some online classes.
I
Talk
have.
a little bit about
I
what those
have.
look like.
When I began this debut author journey, and I got just so into it, I said earlier, I had a horrible experience, and then I ended up getting a contract right after the horrible experience, and I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to have to figure this out. So like I said, I really got deep into the study of the masters, Seth Godin, these people, and I was reading this stuff, and I thought, oh my gosh, we don't know this information. We don't know about marketing versus publicity. We don't know about relationship marketing. We don't know this. This is just not things we talk about in the kid-lit industry. So I thought, well, I'm going to make a couple online courses, and I'm going to share this information that I'm learning. So I did, and it's been great. I've really enjoyed that. And now it's to the point that people reach out to me, and I can coach. I do one-on-one coaching, where people contact me, and I can do 3 sessions, whatever. We can work on whatever they want. We talk about them and what they bring to the marketplace, and say maybe e-newsletter, we put that together or whatever. So do that. But then the other thing that I'm working on, I'm very excited about this because I really believe in this platform, is the Pinterest. So I'm working on offering people opportunities. I will put their platform together if they would like. I'll show them how to do it themselves, or I can run their platform for 3 months, 6 months, and then let you do it. Talking about numbers, when I very first started working on the Pinterest platform seriously, it was about 6 months ago, maybe 7 months ago, and I had 400 viewers come to my platform, 400. Right now, I have 115K.
Wow.
In the summer, I had over 250K because teachers are really looking for content.
Wow.
And so I know the numbers, I know the effect that this can have on our marketing, and I know that I can share that with our community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the interesting too is we just uploaded some pins based on a presentation that I did with 3 other gals at NCTE, and I asked them if it's okay if I did a campaign on Pinterest with our content, and we just put one of the pins in yesterday, and right now it's got like over 350 views. It's just been up a day.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've stumbled upon
Yep.
the teacher guides, the Pinterest, the
Yeah.
marketing and publicity, and figured out how to turn that into part of your business.
It's part of my business. It's part of it's like a side hustle, but it's very, very helpful. The thing about Pinterest too, and you have to get the hook, get me off the stage because I won't quit talking about it.
You work for Pinterest.
I know, affiliate marketer. The thing about Pinterest, as compared to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, when you put a pin on Pinterest, it's evergreen. It's never, never, never going to go away. I've got pins on there that I put on there in 2011. One is Don Tate's book. I've done a bunch of Don Tate's teacher guides. And it's on there. It's never going away. And so today, right now, somebody puts Don Tate in Pinterest, that's going to come up. And so it's working for you when you're not having to do anything. Now, there is a way, it's not, there's some things you have to massage, keywords and that kind of stuff. But when you do it right, it really is beneficial for organizations, for one of the main reasons why I've been so successful with it, because I have so much content with the teacher guides, and I have a podcast, and I have other things, so I pull a lot of content, which, like Highlights, have got a lot of content. We're Vermont college people. We're also clannish. We're always working together. Get 10 people together, and there's a whole lot of content. So
Wow.
I'm excited about it.
That's all fascinating.
It is
So
fascinating.
It's been
Yeah.
great. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Jess, tell me a little bit about where you are. I know you just moved. You do some teaching. What's your writing life look like outside of writing books?
I just moved from New Jersey to West Virginia. So, and by just, I mean 9 days ago, I think, at this point.
Wow.
So I'm still getting adjusted, still moving in and getting comfortable, which is why I don't have much of a routine right now. Other than writing, and that takes up, I would say, the most of my working time right now, just because I have so many projects that are in, what's the word? Projects that are happening
queue?
at the same time.
Process,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is primarily writing full-time at this point. But I also teach at Sierra Nevada College's MFA program, which in the Writing for Children track. And that's a low residency program and similar to the college that I went to, where students fly out and they meet with faculty for 10 days, and we have an intense 10-day of teaching, lectures, workshops, all kinds of things. And then everybody goes home and you work with your students one-on-one through the semester. And basically it's coaching someone through their novel or whatever they're working on. Sometimes it's multiple projects. And I love it. That's if I could do that as my side gig only, that would be wonderful.
Working one-on-one with
Yeah,
the
the working
authors.
one-on-one with the authors. That's helping people develop their stories is probably my favorite thing to do outside my own work. I've tried teaching in traditional classroom scenario for a very short time. Oh, I give you major kudos. I love kids. I love working with kids, but full-time, I can't do it. And I have done teaching in various levels, like with small groups, which I do enjoy. With adults, I really enjoy. But as far as like traditional teaching, it's just that can't not be my side gig. But the coaching is wonderful. And I've done a ton of freelance developmental editing as well. I'm not doing any right now because I have too many other things, but I just really love it. I think there's something about looking at the big picture of somebody's story. And when it's not your own work, you can see it so much clearer. And so, I'll just go through their manuscript and help them put it back together. And I really enjoy that part a lot. So right now, that's, I guess, really my only side gig is teaching in the MFA program. I've had a lot of other interesting side gigs that I don't really want to return to. So that makes me sound a little...
Well, I'm so glad that you're able to focus your energies on your writing.
Yeah, it took a long time, but it's good.
So you talked about Gloria. Now, I know you have some books that are somewhere in the pipeline. Can you tell us about any of those, or are those
Yep.
not yet announced?
Nope, they're all announced. I have no secret contracts right now. So I have a chapter book that's coming out in May. It's on the Epic Books for Kids platform, which is a fantastic app that goes into millions of schools across the country. Like Canada too, so it might be international. And they're all digital, but then they all come out in print later.
Oh, wow.
So it's already in digital form now. It's called Out of Time, Lost on the Titanic, and it'll be out in print in May. The illustrator is Bethany Stancliffe, and this is her first book, and it is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
So that's really cool. I love the art. I love seeing the art. And then next September, I have a middle grade novel called The Dare Sisters coming out. That comes out September 8th. And then the following year, I have my second picture book biography on Brenda Berkman, which is one I worked on here at Highlights 2 summers ago. And then the second Dare Sisters book will come out after that. So I've got several coming in the next 2 years.
Lined
too.
up. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And Deb, I don't think you've yet actually told us the title of your book.
Well, thank you for asking. It's called Girls with Guts, The Road to Breaking Barriers and Bashing Records, published by Charles Bridge and illustrated by Rebecca Gibbon, and I'm so pleased with the illustrations, I can't stand it. It is the history of the female athlete from the very first Olympic Games until present day, introducing the concept or the passage of Title IX, which most kids don't even know exists. And it's interesting to note that in the very first Olympic Games, when the Olympics first began, it was completely lawful to execute a woman if she entered the arena. Off with her head. She is not welcome in there. So what those women did, they said, okay, fine. We can't go in there. So we're going to create our own festival, and we're going to celebrate the goddess Hera, and we're going to run foot races. So there's just this incredibly tenacious spirit that just will not be stopped. And that's what the book celebrates.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
fantastic. And Charles Bridge is a good friend and a supporter of the Highlights Foundation, so it's
Oh,
always
they're-
nice to meet people who have published with Charles Bridge.
Yeah, Julie Bliven is my editor, and it's interesting to note that she actually was a high school basketball star and a college basketball star, and when the manuscript came across her desk, she was unaware. She had heard of Title IX, but she was unaware of the fight and unaware that there was a time when women were not encouraged to play sports. And then, so she said, well, gosh, I don't think there's anything on the shelves like this.
Perfect editor
Yeah.
to land.
Yeah. So turned out really
Fantastic.
nice.
Well, thank you both, Jess Rinker and Deb Gonzalez, for joining us and Into the Words from the Highlights Foundation.
My pleasure.
We're grateful for all that you do to support the Highlights Foundation, but more importantly, for everything you do to support that belief that children are the world's most important people. Thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely.